Hello again, everyone, and thanks you for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, hosting today's show once again. Up first on the breakup map, not much different from yesterday. The North Slope River is about done breaking up, with some open water on the Sagwan and the Kaparik rivers, as well as a Colville, but a pretty expansive area there on the lower portion, or the mid to lower portion showing open, and then back to some or mostly open on out toward the coastline. From there, fire danger still up in the extreme category over a huge area of the interior north of the Alaska Range, especially along the Yukon River and Porcupine River Valley areas on down to the southwest. It's expanded. We have some extreme fire danger areas now into the Nulato Hills and into the Seward Peninsula due to easterly winds, clear skies, and gusty winds. Temperatures in the 70s. In Koyuk at 3 p.m. was up to 81 degrees there in Norton Bay, and 77-degree readings at White Mountain, as well as Kaltag and Nenana. Also high fire danger into the Yukon Delta and the Alaska Peninsula on the east or Bristol Bay side of the Alaska Peninsula. There are actually some small areas of extreme, not so much around King Salmon, and improving conditions over the eastern Alaska Range due to rainfall. About 0.3 of an inch fell in the last 12 hours at Delta Junction, with showers and thunderstorm activity beginning to expand westward toward the Yukon Delta. On the hazardous weather graphic, we've got red flag warnings out for extreme fire danger from the greater Fairbanks area westward across into Tanana and on out to Galena and eastern Norton Sound there, the inland areas up into Ambler, the Kobuk Valley, as well as the Selawik Valley out toward Kotzebue, showing extreme fire danger there to the gusty winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour, temperatures 75 to 80 degrees, humidity's around 20%, and that extends into the Seward Peninsula, but not quite out to the Bering Strait. And those conditions are expected to continue until about 10 p.m. this evening, at which time winds will drop off, temperature falls some, humidity will go up accordingly as the temperature drops, and those will end for at least overnight into tomorrow morning, at which time they may kick them out once again. Otherwise, satellite imagery showing low clouds on the north slope and along the Arctic coast there, with some IFR on the east side. Otherwise, mostly sunny. We have some clouds spreading westward with developing showers and thunderstorms up into the Tanana Valley and expanding out toward the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta area. And then low pressure off the southern panhandle. You can see rolling up south of Sitkinak there. Sitkinak had winds of 30 to 35 miles per hour, but the southern southeast coast saw some rainfall amounts of around half an inch falling at Ketchikan in the last 12 hours. Otherwise, Petersburg picked up about 1/4 of an inch. Other areas had less than that. Gusty winds up over the northern panhandle, or actually in Lynn Canal. Haines and Skagway, 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts this afternoon out of the south, with gusts near 40 miles an hour at Eldred Rock, Inland Canal. You see a front draped out across the Alaska Peninsula. That gave 50 mile an hour wind gusts to Cold Bay earlier today, and wind gusts at 40 miles an hour at Unalaska. Pribilof seeing winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour. That low center to the south, that brought about an inch of rain in a 24-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon to Unalaska. Lighter rainfall amounts along the Alaska Peninsula, but persisting throughout much of the day there. That front hung up along and just to the south. Showers of rain extending back to the west of the low, but lighter winds there in the western quadrant, becoming quite light out over the western Aleutians today. Also seeing the showers, thunderstorms developing all the way out, almost to the, out to nearly to the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta at mid-afternoon. and some shower activity mainly on the east side of Kodiak Island, the Aleutian Range, and rain showers and rain over the Susitna Valley, or actually the Madnuska Valley, with Eureka picking up about half an inch of precipitation today. Palmer had rain about a tenth of an inch. And dry conditions, though, down across much of the Kenai Peninsula, although some areas saw some shower activity and did get some measurable rain, while other areas did not. Otherwise, you can see the northern part of the state there, south of the Brooks Range, in the sunshine, with temperatures well into the 70s. For tonight, rain changes to showers over the southern southeast coast. Stays kind of wet up along the north coast. Remnants of that low pulling northward. Leftover moisture will make for a cloudy, wet night tonight from Cape Yakataga and across the northern southeast coast. Winds will diminish through Lynn Canal, but probably won't end altogether. Look for showers, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula. Cloudy skies, Cook Inlet, light rain, fog, and drizzle. Looks like we'll push back up toward Kodiak Island. And another trough swinging around that low center. Actually, remnants of that front will keep it windy with a good shot of precipitation into the Alaska Peninsula. And isolated thunderstorms possible over the southwest mountains this evening. Otherwise, most of those will die silently to the night here after this evening into tomorrow morning, with just some lingering showers over the southern part of the state. Northern areas will stay fair. A little less wind, but dry. Low clouds and fog along the Arctic coast redeveloping, pushing inland over the north slope once again. And for tomorrow, another sunny, warm one over the northern interior with sunshine after the low clouds burn off along the Arctic coast and definitely the north slope. Take a little longer along the eastern Arctic coast. And you can see another front there pushing up toward the Panhandle. Some more, an increase in the wind and rain once again in the afternoon, especially to the south. But still rain chances along the North Gulf Coast are showery, cloudy, cool conditions. Temperatures mostly in the 50s, maybe lower 60s. Copper River Basin, south central Alaska to Bristol Bay. High maybe 50 for Kodiak with the low clouds, rain, and occasional fog there. That 995 millibar low just off to your southeast. And the low still sitting south of the Alaska Peninsula will keep less wind, but still pretty damp conditions from the Fox Islands on up the Alaska Peninsula. It should be another dry day over the southeast Bering Sea. Sunshine you saw today over the Pribilofs, you could see again tomorrow, but probably throw some clouds back in there. It'll stay dry though with winds, with light winds, and chance of thunderstorms over the even all the way out to the Bering Strait actually. Outlook for Tuesday. Same pattern, thunderstorms from the Seward Peninsula eastward along the trough axis to the eastern border. Sunniest, warmest central and northern interior. Coolest, cloudiest, and wettest over the southern part of the state, especially from Kodiak Island up along the North Gulf Coast and on down the Panhandle as that front stays off the coast there and keeps surges of moisture moving in with periods of rain and clouds. Again, cool conditions, 50s, lower 60s, southern Alaska, mostly in the 50s for the Panhandle. And the northern interior, probably a little cooler over the central areas, Tanana Valley into the Seward Peninsula. But the northern areas, Koyukuk, Koyukuk, Upper Yukon Valley, still looking at 70s for your highs and mostly sunny afternoon for the north slope. Still quiet out over the Bering Sea. Real weak trough there, may bring some showers to St. Matthew Island, but generally weak flow, low clouds, areas of fog, some IFR, and scattered showers over the eastern Aleutians, diminishing in the afternoon, but you could see some partly sunny skies for the central and western Aleutians. Lows for tonight, mid to upper 20s for the Arctic coast and into the north slope. Otherwise, 40s to near 50 over the central interior, warmest in the west. Low forecast to be 52 at Nome, with mid-40s into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, near 40 along the coast, mid to upper 30s out over the Bering Sea northward to St. Lawrence Island, and mid to upper 40s for your lows for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow, 55 to 62 for southern Alaska, mostly in the 50s over the Copper River Basin, upper 40s, lower 50s for the Panhandle, 50s to near 60 for Bristol Bay, and 65 to 75 for the central interior, warmest again over toward Tanana, on out to the Seward Peninsula and up toward Kelly and the Noatak Valley areas. Mid to upper 30s for your highs for the eastern central Arctic coast, but up to 48 there at Point Lay. Tuesday morning lows, mid to upper 20s again, North Slope Arctic coast, and 40s to lower 50s, warmest over the west central interior and northwest, and otherwise 40s here for southern Alaska, maybe some upper 30s in the Copper River Basin, higher valley areas, 40s for the Panhandle, mid 40s Kodiak Island, near 40 for the Pribilofs, down to 33 for Savunga, followed by highs 65 to 70 over the interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
IFR to start the day out Monday morning for the Arctic coast and North Slope, but from the Brooks Range through the interior down to the Alaska Range, and then on down to Bristol Bay, VFR. Some marginal VFR along the Alaska Range, possibly IFR, right over the Talkeetnas, marginal Kenai Peninsula, North Gulf Coast, and most of the Copper River Basin, especially the mountainous terrain there, and areas of marginal VFR along the Panhandle. IFR from Sitkinak and along the Alaska Peninsula, the eastern Aleutians, central Aleutians, Pribilofs, otherwise marginal VFR for St. Lawrence Island, IFR, Yukon Delta coast to the Bering Strait. For the afternoon, becomes VFR for the North Slope and central eastern Boulder Sea coast, marginal VFR right along the coastline. Marginal VFR hangs in along the Alaska Range all the way around southern Cook Inlet. IFR, especially eastern Kodiak and Fognak Islands, marginal VFR, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound with IFR, Cape Yakataga to near Yakutat on down the Panhandle, otherwise marginal VFR for the inside waters. IFR, northern Bering Sea, including the Pribilofs, extending back to the far western Aleutians. Tuesday morning, northern and western Bering Sea, again including Shimiatu, Pribilofs, St. Lawrence Island, all IFR, marginal VFR to the south. IFR, south side of the Alaska Peninsula, all of Kodiak Island, across the Gulf up into the eastern North Gulf Coast, coastal areas of the Panhandle, IFR. And marginal VFR, a little more widespread along the Alaska Range either side, down across the Talkeetnas. And then that IFR on the North Slope Arctic coast burns all the way back off the coast for VFR conditions there through the interior. And again, the Alaska Range, looking at threat of marginal VFR throughout the day, especially the afternoon or into the afternoon. Otherwise, some VFR scattered around southern Alaska, IFR, Kodiak Island, Prince William Sound, central eastern North Gulf Coast, mostly marginal for the Panhandle. Northern Bering Sea, IFR, central southern Bering Sea, marginal, Aleutian, central and eastern marginal VFR. Marginal VFR sliding on up into Bristol Bay, IFR from Kiska Island westward. Passes Anatuvik starting out marginal on the northern entrance, becoming VFR by late morning. And for Adigan, same forecast, VFR, but possible marginal VFR, northern entrance early on. Lake Clark, Merrill, occasionally marginal throughout the day. Rainy, occasionally marginal, risk of a thunderstorm, and windy. Look for mostly marginal VFR occasionally with a risk of a thunderstorm. Chance of an isolated thunderstorm or two for Isabel with marginal VFR. Mentasta, marginal. And for Tanita, VFR. Portage, occasionally marginal, especially on the eastern entrance. Chilkoot and White starting out marginal, could become IFR late in the day, possibly in the afternoon. And for freezing levels, upper level ridging there, keeping it about 8,000 feet or so up over the north or the west central interior on up to the western Arctic coast. Cooler conditions down toward the North Gulf Coast, about 4,000 feet from the eastern Aleutians Alaska Peninsula, across the Gulf into the Panhandle. And for icing, got some occasional moderate rime or considerable moderate rime possible. That'd be mostly along the southeast coast, otherwise isolated moderate rime there. And chance or risk of some mixed icing of the light variety, isolated moderate possible, but not likely for the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, and on up into the southern interior, especially the southeast interior. Jet stream shows a series of lows from Northwest Territories into the eastern Gulf on down to just south of the Alaska Peninsula and then south of the central Aleutians. High pressure holding, ridging off the western Arctic coast into the Russian Far East, that pushing a northeasterly flow, only at about 40 to 50 knots at jet stream level with a main stronger jet well to the south. 9,000 feet, 35 to 40 knot winds from the southwest interior across the Pribilof. Southerlies on the increase there, especially on the south coast of the Panhandle. 3,000 feet, that low, bringing 40 to 50 knot winds up into the offshore southeastern Gulf area. Still off the coast of the Panhandle. Easterlies at 40 knots, Kodiak Island across the Aleutian Range. Look for occasional moderate chop, lee side of the Alaska Peninsula. Mechanical turbulence for the southeast coast, especially over the southern areas, it could be considerably moderate.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NexRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NexRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute. So it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers a potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time, and current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We just launched the MPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal water forecast, we've got gale warnings out all along the southeast coast there for tomorrow. On the south coast, southerlies 35 knots, 13-foot seas, and southeast 35 to as high as 40 knots on the north coast. For the inside waters, Clarence Strait also under the influence of a gale warning with southeast winds forecast at 35 knots. Small craft advisories for Stevens Passage, southeast 25, and Lynn Canal, south 25. Those will be lighter on Tuesday, with the Lynn Canal area looking at southerlies coming down to 15 knots, southeast 15 for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait southeast at 20, and much lighter winds along the south coast on Tuesday with southerlies at about 15 knots, seas down to 9 feet, and 20 to 25 knot south winds on the north coast with 10 to 11 foot seas. Prince William Sound, northeast at 15. Same thing for northern Cook Inlet with 3 foot seas. South of the Foreland Zone, northeast at 10. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay. East, 25 knots, 7 foot seas, and small craft advisories for the eastern North Gulf Coast for sustained winds out of the east at 30 knots with 8 foot seas, but the western North Gulf Coast looking at lighter winds from the northeast only at 20 knots. Those will kick up to 25 knots there for Tuesday. And the Barren Islands east at 20 knots, seas 10 feet. Southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay, northeast breeze at 15 with 3 foot seas. East or variable to east, northern Cook Inlet, 10 knots, 3 foot seas. And the eastern North Gulf Coast, southeast 25 knots, Prince William Sound, east at 15. Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, northeasterly, sustained at 30 knots tomorrow. Otherwise, east side of the island, look for easterly winds at 25 knots. And from Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, winds will be southeast, 25 knots for small craft advisories. A little stronger on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula with easterlies at 30 knots. And Bristol Bay, small craft advisories, east winds, 25 knots. Lighter winds in store for Tuesday for all areas there. Alaska Peninsula, north to northeast at 20 knots. Bristol Bay down to 15 knots from the northeast. Northeast 20 for Shelikof Strait. Southeast 20 for the east side of Kodiak. Out over the Fox Islands, Unalaska Island, northeast 20 to 25 knots. Unmac Island, north to northwest at 20 to 25 knots. And same thing for the Central Aleutians, northerlies to northwesterlies, 20 to 25. And winds diminish as you head west from Kiska to Shemya down to 15 knots. Winds stay light over the western Aleutians on Tuesday, west-northwest at 15 knots west of Adak, and not much different there for the Central Aleutian zone, northwest 15, and west to northwest 15 to 20 knots for the eastern Aleutians. For the southwest coast, strongest winds will be south of Nunivak Island, northeast 30 knots there, a 7-foot sea. Small craft advisories also in the forecast for the Pribilof Islands, northeast 25. Much lighter though for St. Matthew Island, down to 10 knots out of the northeast, and then back up to 25 knots for St. Lawrence Island with 5-foot seas. Norton Sound variable to south at 10. Those will become westerly in the sound on Tuesday. And then north 15 for St. Lawrence Island, southwest coast, northwest 15, 3 to 4 foot seas, west 15, St. Matthew Island. Pribilofs, northerlies 20 knots, 6-foot seas. Some brisk wind advisories continue on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow. East, sustained 25 knots, down to about 20 again. Lighter winds for the central coast, and then back up to small craft advisories on the west side. 30 knots out of the east, and 25 knot winds all the way down to Cape Thompson, then Cape Thompson to Wales, north at 20. Outlook for Tuesday, Wales to Cape Thompson, northwest 15. Then small craft advisories there from Cape Thompson up to about Point Lay, central coast, east at 20, and then 25 knot winds for brisk wind advisories on the east side there along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and back down to 20 knots from the east toward Demarcation Point. For tonight, again, stays breezy up along the Arctic coast with low clouds pushing back in over the north slope, and otherwise dry, variably cloudy over the central northern interior, diminishing scattered thunderstorms over southern Alaska from the southwest coast into the eastern interior, eastern Alaska range. But showers persist along Prince William Sound tonight, and it stays damp over the Panhandle. Rain and wind for the Alaska Peninsula. And for tomorrow, another front, more, again, gale force winds, rain for the Panhandle. Thunderstorms along the trough axis there in the central interior out to the Seward Peninsula. Warm and sunny north of that, cooler and showery and cloudy to the south.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.